Today I want to talk about a nice little piece of gear and why I think it would be a good accessory to add to your photography kit. And I'm talking about a variable ND filter, and more specifically about this one here, the Sandmarc Motion Pro variable ND. Now before we get started, I want to say that Sandmarc did not pay me to make this video. They just sent me this ND filter to test it out, and they didn't ask me to make this video. I just wanted to share my experience with you and tell you what I think about this product. So let's first talk about what is an ND filter. So an ND filter, or a neutral density filter, reduces the amount of light that enters a camera. So it kind of works like sunglasses, but for a camera. Neutral density filters come in different kinds of strengths, so the filter can be more or less black depending on the strength. The more black it is, the more light it will absorb and the less light will enter the camera. A variable ND filter allows you to adjust the density of the filter, so the amount of light entering into the camera. So typically you can do this by twisting a ring on the front of the filter, and as you twist it, the filter will become more or less black. An ND filter is mostly used to help you dial in the correct exposure for your photography and videography, and it can be very useful when you're shooting in strong daylight or other bright conditions. In videography, it's typically used to keep your shutter speed low so you can get that natural motion blur. In photography, ND filters are very interesting for any kind of creative in-camera effects, and they can be used for a number of reasons, such as long exposure photography, or if you want to keep your camera at a certain f-stop to achieve a certain depth of field. A fixed ND filter will generally give you higher quality images, whereas a variable ND filter offers flexibility and convenience. A variable ND filter will also save you a lot of money and space in your camera bag. So just think about it, this one filter actually contains 4 ND filters. So that's a lot of money and a lot of space. And also in terms of convenience, when the light is changing and the conditions are changing, it's a lot easier to just twist this little filter to change your settings, whereas to stack other filters or change over filters with the fixed setup. One thing to keep in mind though when using these variable ND filters is that when you push these, or some of these at least, to their maximum capacity, that you can get what's called cross vignetting, or this like X mark on your image. And this usually happens with very wide angle lenses. Alright, so let's talk about the Sandmarc Motion Pro ND filter. So it's a 3 to 6 stop ND filter, meaning it goes from an ND8 all the way to an ND64. It's made out of aluminium, so it's very light, and it's also very thin. It's about 7.2 millimeters thick, and they use what's called multi-coated cinema glass, which is supposed to be very durable, and it's supposed to also take care of that cross vignetting that I just talked about. The Sandmarc ND filter costs $149 or 127 euros more or less, and that puts it just above mid-range in comparison to some other variable ND filters. When I first held this filter in my hands, I thought it felt a little cheap, but after using it for a while now, I think the build quality is actually very good, and the twisting mechanism on the front to change the density of the filter works very smoothly, so it's very easy to dial in your settings. The downside of the filter being so thin is that you can't actually put a lens cap over it. So when you're on the move, it's very hard to actually protect the glass from getting any scratches or anything on it. Sandmarc gives you this little pouch with the filter, and I found for the price that they could have done a little bit better on this detail, because it doesn't protect the filter that much, and on the inside the material isn't that soft, so I'm worried that over time maybe there will be some scratches on the filter. But I was really happy with the image quality I got when using this filter. I couldn't see any kind of color casting whatsoever, and even when using the filter at its maximum capacity and in combination with an 18mm wide angle lens, I couldn't see any cross vignetting or this X mark on any of the images. So yeah, I was really happy with those results. So should you buy the Sandmarc Motion Pro variable ND filter? Well, maybe. It really depends on what your needs and what your budget is, because I think there are cheaper options out there that could also work very well, and there are also a bit more pricey options out there that maybe have a better overall build quality and just a bit more eye for some details. But for a mid-range variable ND filter, I think the Sandmarc Motion Pro sure packs a punch, so it should definitely be considered as an option. Anyway, I hope this video will help you in your search for finding the right variable ND filter. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace!